A new dawn breaks. The world watched in suspense. A puff of white smoke rose from the chimney of the Sistine Chapel. A new pope had been chosen. Excitement swept through the crowd in St. Peter's Square. Everyone was asking the same question: who would guide the Catholic Church into the future? Then came the announcement: Cardinal Luis Antonio Tagle from the Philippines. A wave of surprise and emotion moved through the square. History had just been made. For the first time in many generations, the leadership of the Church was passing from the West to the East, to a humble man from Asia, from the Philippines. Luis Antonio Tagle was born in 1957 in Manila, a lively city filled with the noise of jeepneys, street vendors, and children laughing as they played in the streets. He grew up in a world where faith and family were everything. As he got older, Tagle was deeply touched by the stories of struggle and hope all around him. It was in those early years that he began to feel a quiet but strong calling to serve God, a calling that would guide the rest of his life. He joined the seminary, a place where young men came not only to study religion, but to discover meaning and purpose in life. Tagle stood out early on, not just because he was smart, but because of the way he treated people. He was a curious and thoughtful student, always eager to learn. But what truly set him apart was his deep kindness and humility. He had a rare gift: the ability to truly listen. Whether you were a fellow seminarian or a stranger sitting quietly in a church pew, he made you feel seen, heard, and valued. In 1982, he became a priest. From the moment he stepped into that role, people were drawn to him. Father Tagle wasn't just a priest. He was a friend. He celebrated with people during their happiest moments and stood beside them during their darkest hours. His warmth and sincerity were felt by everyone he met. When he listened, he did so with his whole heart. He understood the ups and downs of everyday life. He laughed with his community, mourned their losses, and rejoiced in their victories. He was always present, approachable, and full of gentle wisdom. Whether leading a quiet mass in a small chapel or sitting with someone who needed support, he brought hope and comfort to all. As time went on, the Church recognized his deep dedication. He rose to become the Archbishop of Manila, a role that carried great responsibility in a country where faith is deeply rooted in daily life. Yet, even as his influence grew, he stayed grounded. He never stopped visiting the poor, listening to their stories, and reminding them that the Church was their home too. People loved him not just for his title, but for who he was. Children would run to hug him. Elders would seek his blessing, and families welcomed him like one of their own. His journey reflected a deep and unshakable faith, the same faith that lives in the hearts of so many Filipinos. No matter the challenges, he stayed strong, lifting others up with kindness and hope. Today, Luis Antonio Tagle's story touches hearts around the world. It's a story of humility, service, and the incredible power of faith to bring people together and make a difference in their lives. A heart for the world cardinal. Tagle's compassion didn't stop at the borders of the Philippines. He saw pain and poverty in many parts of the world and believed the Church had a duty to respond. As president of Caritas Internationalis, a global charity fighting poverty and injustice, he became a strong voice for those who had none. He stood up for the poor, the overlooked, and the forgotten. Again and again, he urged the Church to reach out to the edges of society, to be present where help was needed most. His bond with Pope Francis was deep and well known. The two shared the same dream, a church that shows mercy, that opens its doors to everyone, and that walks alongside the poor and the suffering. The Fisherman's Ring. The day of the coronation was a moment of both majesty and meaning, a scene filled with centuries of tradition and the hopes of millions of faithful followers. Inside St. Peter's Basilica, the atmosphere was electric. People from all over the world, from ordinary believers to world leaders, had gathered to witness a once-in-a-generation moment. Every detail of the ceremony told a story. The slow, solemn procession, the powerful hymns echoing through the grand space. The beauty of the basilica was breathtaking. Decorated with stunning flowers and golden banners, glowing candlelight bouncing off marble pillars, and the sweet scent of incense rising with whispered prayers. It felt as though every inch of the church was alive with reverence and awe. Cardinals dressed in deep red robes stood together, their presence a living link to the church's long and rich history. Each one came from a different part of the world, carrying with them the hopes and blessings of their people. On their faces were emotions too deep for words: pride, humility, wonder, as they prepared to welcome the new pope. The whole world was watching, in the packed square outside the Vatican and through TV screens in homes everywhere, from big cities to quiet villages. People from all walks of life paused to witness this powerful moment of unity and new beginnings. You could feel the excitement in the air, as if the entire world was holding its breath together. Then he appeared. Pope Louis I, formerly Cardinal Tagle, stepped onto the balcony, dressed in shining white robes that glowed in the sunlight. He raised his hand in a gentle wave, his face calm and kind, filled with humility and quiet strength. In that moment, he became more than just a new leader. He became a symbol of hope for Catholics around the globe. As the new successor of St. Peter, he had taken on the mission of guiding the Church into a new chapter. The weight of that responsibility could be seen in the way he carried himself. Yet there was also a deep peace about him, as if the faith of those who came before him gave him courage. He now shared the same burden carried by every pope before, the burden of leading with heart and wisdom. And in his steady gaze, you could see his quiet determination to lead with compassion, to walk alongside his people through both joy and hardship. His eyes reflected humility and love, a genuine care for the people he had been chosen to serve. His gentle smile was a silent promise to listen as much as he would lead. When he spoke, his voice carried a message the world needed to hear, one of love, compassion, and service. He reminded everyone that the real strength of the papacy lies not in power, but in the willingness to serve others. His words reached far beyond the square, touching the hearts of millions. At a time when the world often feels divided, his message brought comfort and hope. He spoke of unity and peace, encouraging people of all nations, backgrounds, and beliefs to come together as one human family. His message was simple but powerful. Only by caring for each other can we build a better, more just world. His message crossed borders and beliefs, connecting with people of every faith. In that moment, the Vatican became more than just a place of tradition. It became a light in the darkness, a symbol of what is possible when we choose understanding over division. Pope Louis I was not just a religious figure. He was a leader for all humanity. And as he reached out to comfort the suffering and stand with the forgotten, he lived the very values he preached: kindness, humility, and deep, unwavering faith. The Fisherman's Ring. On his finger, Pope Louis I wore the Fisherman's Ring, a powerful symbol of his new role as the successor to Peter, the humble fisherman chosen by Jesus to lead. But the ring was more than just a sign of authority. It was a reminder of his promise to serve everyone, no matter who they were or what they believed. It was also a call to reach far and wide, to find the forgotten, to comfort the lonely, and to bring hope wherever it was needed. The ring carried deep meaning. It was both an honor and a responsibility, connecting him to the long line of popes before him. Like them, he was now called to be a fisher of people, someone who would draw hearts closer to faith and help a hurting world find healing and hope. On that historic day, as sunlight streamed across St. Peter's Square, Pope Louis I stood as a powerful reminder of what faith, kindness, and unity can achieve. Joy in the Pearl of the Orient. Back in the Philippines, the joy was overwhelming. Their beloved Cardinal Chito had become Pope Louis I. Churches across the country filled with people weeping, praying, and singing in celebration. The streets of Manila came alive with music, flags, and fireworks. Filipinos everywhere, from small towns to far-off countries, felt a deep pride. Their voice, their faith, and their culture were now shining on the world stage. Photos of the new pope with his gentle smile and humble presence were everywhere. For Catholics across Asia, it was a powerful moment. They were no longer on the sidelines. Now, they were at the very heart of the church. Their stories mattered. Their hopes would be heard. A global family rejoices. The celebration didn't stop in the Philippines. All around the world, in big cities and quiet villages alike, people rejoiced. For many, Pope Louis I became a symbol of hope, especially for those who often felt ignored or invisible. He represented the global South, places like Asia, Africa, and Latin America, where the Catholic Church is growing fast but hasn't always had a voice at the center. His election was also a reflection of Pope Francis's legacy. Francis had appointed many of the cardinals who chose Louis, opening the door for a more inclusive and diverse church. In many ways, Pope Louis I was the fruit of that vision, a church that listens, welcomes, and embraces the whole world. Voices of hope and change. Messages of joy and hope came flooding in. World leaders sent congratulations. Religious figures from different faiths shared their dreams for a more peaceful and united future. But it was the words of everyday people that touched hearts the most. Messages filled with hope, gratitude, and belief that this new pope would truly listen, truly care, and help lead the world into a brighter, more compassionate future. Pride of a nation, hope of the world. Filipino Catholics everywhere spoke with joy and pride. They shared heartfelt stories of Pope Louis I, remembering his kindness, his humility, and his deep love for the people. From all around the world, Catholics joined in support. Many saw in him a leader who would stand up for the poor, speak for the forgotten, and bring hope to the edges of society. His election was more than a milestone. It was a moment of transformation. It gave new energy and new hope to the church. For many, it felt like a sign that the church was finally becoming more open, more inclusive, and more reflective of the millions of people who make up its global family. A church for the peripheries. Pope Louis I quickly made it clear what kind of church he dreamed of. A church that walks with the people, listens to their struggles, and lifts up those left behind. He urged the church to move outward, to the margins, to where people feel unseen or unheard. He called for compassion, for bridge building, for reaching across divides. He also stressed the power of conversation, not just within the church, but with people of other religions and with those who may not agree with everything the church teaches. For Pope Louis I, honest dialogue was essential for peace, healing, and a more just world. A journey of faith and hope. The path from Manila to the Vatican was more than a journey across oceans. It was a journey of the heart. As the sun rose over the vibrant streets of Manila, a quiet sense of destiny filled the air. This wasn't just the story of one man. It was the story of a people, a nation, and a shared dream taking flight. When Pope Louis I left the Philippines, he carried with him more than a suitcase. He carried the prayers and hopes of millions. Each step through the airport was filled with emotion. It was a journey rooted in faith, driven by love, and powered by a deep desire to serve. Across the country, churches filled with prayer and purpose. People reached out to one another, helping, comforting, encouraging. From grand cathedrals to small chapels, the Filipino spirit shone brightly. A spirit of service, warmth, and deep, unshakable faith. That spirit became the foundation of Pope Louis I's mission. A mission built not on status, but on service. It was proof of how faith, when shared and lived together, can move hearts and change the world. A new chapter begins. As the world turned its eyes to the Vatican, anticipation ran high. The white smoke rising from the Sistine Chapel wasn't just a sign of tradition. It was a sign of change, of hope, and of a church stepping boldly into the future. The cardinals had chosen a leader whose story began far from Rome, a leader rooted in the energy, diversity, and heart of the global South. Pope Louis I brought with him a rich blend of cultures and traditions, representing a part of the world where the church is vibrant and growing. He stood as a bridge between old and new, tradition and change, center and periphery. And in him, millions saw not just a pope, but a symbol of what the church. The joy and celebration that erupted among Catholics from Latin America, Africa, and Asia was a testament to the deep connection they felt with their new shepherd. For the first time, many saw themselves reflected in the highest office of the church, their stories and struggles acknowledged on the world stage. He brought with him the hopes and dreams of millions of people who had felt marginalized, overlooked, or forgotten. From the crowded streets of Manila to the remote villages of Africa and the bustling barrios of Latin America, his election was a beacon of possibility. Pilgrims from developing nations arrived at the Vatican, their faces alight with hope, carrying banners that spoke of justice, dignity, and the longing for a more inclusive church. The marginalized found their voices amplified, their dreams given new life. He offered a vision of a more inclusive, compassionate, and outward-looking church, one that welcomed all, regardless of background, status, or circumstance. His embrace extended to the disabled, the elderly, and those of different faiths, signaling a commitment to dialogue, understanding, and unity. The Vatican became a place where people of all backgrounds could gather in prayer, forging bonds of solidarity and mutual respect. This vision resonated deeply, inspiring countless individuals to believe in the possibility of a church that truly reflected the diversity and beauty of humanity. His papacy was a sign of hope for a world in desperate need of healing and unity. In times marked by division and uncertainty, his message of peace, reconciliation, and shared purpose brought people together. Candlelight vigils for peace illuminated the darkness, as hands joined in unity and hearts opened to the promise of a brighter future. The Pope's words and actions inspired a renewed sense of purpose, reminding all that together humanity could overcome even the greatest challenges. Pope Louis I, shepherd from Manila, was truly ready to lead the church into a new dawn. In the quiet moments of prayer and reflection at St. Peter's Basilica, he drew strength from the legacy of those who came before him, while looking forward with hope and determination. His journey, rooted in faith and hope, had only just begun. And with it, the promise of a more compassionate, inclusive, and united church for generations to come.